it was very moving to watch the film with Daryl, who, of course, having put so much into the farm and then kind of reliving what happened was really kind of hard for me too, I guess.
Tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of the farm eviction, and so tomorrow night I'll be spending the night on the streets, because the farm is still just a dirt field, returning back to its original state. When the farmers were given it, it's filled with garbage and burned out junk, and it's been sitting there in dirt field for the last 3 years. But tomorrow night, all the farmers and I will be spending the night on the streets of the farm, because they're still fighting for it.
I think the farmers are one of the most amazing groups I've ever encountered. In the wake of their defeat, they absolutely refused to give up. Right kitty corner to the farm, they set up a community center, and every month, as we say at the end of the film, they have a tianguis, more than just a farmer's market. They also have dances, and there's these hip-hop groups that have come out of the farm movement. And the youth have maintained some of their connection with their culture, which they lost and was regained throughout the movement. The traditional dances, Aztec dances, are still being danced. They continue to really be strong. They truly have a fierce light, and I think they're a real inspiration for us all. 3 years later, they're still challenging the developer on environmental grounds, trying to stop him from putting in the factory. He still hasn't been able to build anything, and I think he may be just wondering if he made the wrong decision in turning them down. The developer wouldn't do an interview. Now, the Garden did get an interview with him. There's a film called The Garden. Do you want to just talk about that?
It was nominated for an Academy Award this year. It's called The Garden, and it's really about the legal struggle that the farmers have gone through for all of these years. And because the city did not follow due process, and every single judge said it was an illegal sale, but the city still pushed the sale through. So The Garden is really a very amazing documentary made by Scott Kennedy. And it's about the whole political and legal struggle and corruption that went into how this happened.
Garden.com. Yeah. Another question? Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. The question is, how did this process change our lives? Mine in the process of making this film. Well, Fierce Light is part of a trilogy, and it's really a kind of a life's work project for me. I actually began with Scared Sacred. The first idea was those two words, scared and sacred, in 1995. The project actually began as a website in which I was looking at the difference between the scared and the sacred and how they collide together. And then it turned into a film, and I set out to travel around the world, going to the sacred places of the world, all the world's holy places, and the scared places of the world, all the world's biggest ground zeros. So I went to Hiroshima, I went to Cambodia, I went to Afghanistan, I was in New York City during 9/11. And I discovered that the sacred, the most powerful place to find the sacred is where you least expect it, was in the scared places. In fact, that was where the depth of the sacred revealed itself. And to speak to a Hiroshima survivor who, all the people I met who had been through the worst you could imagine, with their spirit not only intact, but actually transformed by the crisis. And I think that is a message that we can all use, because we live in a time of such great crisis. So making that film absolutely transformed me. What's amazing is I spent 5 years going to the places, the most heartbreaking places in the world, and I left that experience more inspired than when I started, because of the people I met. And so whenever I have a problem in my own life, I can really put it in perspective. Somehow I can get through this, And then that making Scared Sacred led naturally into making Fierce Light, and it kind of emerged out of that. And I mean, it's interesting that the very first shoot was South Central Farm's shoot, and then it ended up becoming such an integral part of the film. And you know, in making Fierce Light, you know, it would have been easy if the film was just all happy, you know, but our truly fierce light actually requires us to go through and face the reality and then still find within that brokenness, that brokenheartedness, the fierce light to really, the soul force, to still maintain our sense of hope. And that's a choice that we can make. So the film, I think, gives you an experience of actual soul force. Yeah. Do you want to talk about yours? Okay, another question. Yes.
I'm used to hearing people make sort of cynical comment that something about this thought ahead. I was just wondering if you could talk about your decision to really connect people by this extended study of the close-up.
Yeah. So the question was about the close-ups of the faces. And you know, at its heart, this is a film about the idea of Ubuntu, of interconnectedness, not just with humans, but with the planet itself. And so that's constantly a theme that's weaving throughout the film. And the faces, for me, the diversity of faces, everywhere around the world I film these close-ups of faces. And sometimes I would have people close their eyes and then open them and imagine they were looking at the most beautiful thing they could imagine. You know, so that's the looks on their faces when they're looking at you. So there's this real beautiful twinkle and sparkle in people's eyes. And so, you know, really what I try to do in my filmmaking is bring out the very best in people, the very best in humanity. I want people to look as beautiful as possible, while still facing the reality of the world. So that was one way of doing that. Yes. Yeah. Sure. The third in the trilogy is called Evolve Love. The Meaning is Life, and it's going to be a journey into looking for lived stories of a possible future beyond sustainability, of people living in communities of like the eco-village in Gaviotas, Colombia, which is a place where they went to the most destroyed salt desert they could find, a clear-cut, devastated region some 50 years ago, and brought it back to its original biodiversity, reforested it, and then created an eco-village that keeps coming up with these amazing, sustainable visions, like teeter-totter pumps that the children play on in the playground that pumps the community's water. So stories like that. So I'm looking for stories like that around the world. And on different levels of consciousness, like the story of Bhutan, which has the world's first gross national happiness index, and the slow food movement in Italy. So different stories like that, and it's another feature documentary, the third in the trilogy. And while we're talking about the sustainability stuff, why don't you talk a bit about DH Love Life, because it's actually very related to Evolve Love.
I have a website, DH Love Life. Because if you love life, then you want to protect it, right? And it seemed to me like everyone when you in Fierce Light, when everyone says what is it that moved them into action, it always comes down to love. And so anyway, I do 5-minute video blogs on solutions. I just have to say one thing. Velcro always calls himself a rabid optimist. And I'm like, how do you do that? Because, you know, I vacillate between optimism and hope when I meet these incredibly inspiring people, and then just so much, you know, heartbreak and devastation, and that I find myself not able to keep that, and I really look to him as an inspiration for how to kind of pick yourself up and keep going and stay optimistic. And I've just learned so much from him, so I just wanted to thank him. But anyway, my website focuses on the positive and tries to really point towards the solutions and in-depth information as well as the videos and things like that. So it's just homemade. It's not like fancy schmancy or anything. It's just a little website but it's been great for me to learn how to do it.
In actual fact, the videos are great, and they're short video vlogs, and that's why Daryl went to South Central Farms in the first place. Initially, was to film for a vlog, and you've done what, 30 of them, 40 of them, 50 of them.